Today, our cars are true technological marvels, capable of self-parking, navigation, and equipped with rear-view cameras. Things that just 10 years ago might have seemed insane. But alongside these amazing innovations, automotive history has also witnessed countless bizarre and spectacularly failed ideas. Join us as we explore the 25 most outlandish car features ever created, ones you'll probably be glad never became reality. The in-car toilet. Let's start with an idea you'd never think was real. It sounds crazy, but this feature actually existed. In 1947, luxury car brand Cadillac developed a test vehicle equipped with a real, functional toilet right inside. The initial idea was to support Cadillac in a non-stop 10,000-kilometer driving test, aiming to check the car's durability. The in-car toilet feature was later seriously considered by major automakers in the late 1940s and 1950s. Another famous case is the 1954 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith, customized for businessman Joseph Maschach, which even had a gold toilet placed under the right rear seat. Although it worked relatively well in Cadillac's concept car, this feature proved terrible in most other vehicles. Finding enough space for both the toilet and a waste tank was a major challenge, not to mention hygiene issues like waste splashing or spraying out when the car moved, and most importantly, unpleasant odors spreading throughout the cabin. The owner of that Rolls-Royce even had to claim his gold toilet was only used as a champagne cooler to avoid stigma. Ultimately, people realized that simply pulling over at a gas station and using a public restroom was far easier and more convenient than the hassles an in-car toilet brought. Side-mounted flamethrowers. This is one of the most shocking features we'll talk about. It sounds unrealistic, but side-mounted flamethrowers were once developed and tested. The main purpose of equipping this terrifying weapon was to deter carjackings rampant in South Africa, a region known for high crime and violence rates. Additionally, in some other parts of the African continent, they were also considered for use to scare away large wild animals like rhinos from the road, protecting vehicle and driver safety. Even German luxury car manufacturer BMW once developed a luxury car equipped with flamethrowers called Blaster. However, the legality and ethics of developing such vehicles were immediately and seriously questioned. Most militaries worldwide had stopped using flamethrowers as official weapons because they were considered too barbaric and inhumane. The United Nations even called them instruments of torture. Clearly, a controversial and deadly feature like a flamethrower could not become a popular and widely accepted innovation globally. Even for protective purposes, the line between safety and brutality was crossed, leading to this feature being quickly dropped from commercial car ideas. Nuclear fusion engines. Turning back time to the 1950s and 1960s, an era of technological optimism, automakers were fascinated by the idea of developing nuclear engines for cars, inspired by popular sci-fi films like The Jetsons and Back to the Future. Ford Motor Company even went further by developing a nuclear-powered concept car in 1958, named Ford Nucleon. This model was designed with a compact nuclear reactor mounted at the rear, promising a nearly infinite energy source and the ability to travel thousands of kilometers on a single charge. However, dreams of nuclear-powered cars never became a reality, and perhaps we should be glad they didn't. Scientists and engineers quickly realized these cars would be too dangerous and too expensive to develop and mass produce. The risk of radioactive leaks, nuclear accidents in case of collision, and the enormous cost of building and maintaining a miniature nuclear reactor were insurmountable obstacles. Furthermore, disposing of radioactive waste from millions of such cars would also be an environmental nightmare. Fortunately, this idea was quickly discarded, making way for safer and more sustainable technologies. A fifth wheel for parking. Parking, especially parallel parking, has always been a terrifying nightmare for many drivers. In 1951, Cadillac attempted to solve this problem with an extremely bold engineering solution: a retractable fifth wheel, mounted under the trunk. The idea was that when parking, the driver could lower this wheel, and it would lift the rear of the car, allowing the driver to easily pivot and maneuver the rear into the parking spot more precisely, reducing stress when backing into tight spaces. However, this idea failed spectacularly due to its impracticality. The system was too cumbersome to deploy and retract, frequently experienced technical malfunctions, and was generally unreliable. Aligning and using this auxiliary wheel took more time and effort than traditional self-parking. Furthermore, even when it did work, it didn't provide the superior effectiveness expected. Ultimately, people realized that simply driving around the parking lot to find a comfortable, spacious spot was much easier and less complicated than trying to use this bizarre feature. Time and maintenance costs were also a major issue. Do you struggle with parallel parking? Would this feature have been helpful for you? Onboard record players, Chrysler Highway, Hi-Fi. Before satellite radio or streaming services existed, the only way to enjoy your favorite music on the road was through record players. In the mid-1950s, Chrysler pioneered by offering an optional integrated record player, dubbed in-car phonographs, on many of its popular models. This system, famously known as the Chrysler Highway Hi-Fi, was designed so drivers could bring their collection of 45 RPM vinyl records and listen to their favorite tunes throughout the trip, transforming the car into a personal entertainment space. While the idea of listening to vinyl records in your car sounds romantic, it quickly ran into countless practical problems. Flipping a record from side A to side B while driving was an impossible and extremely dangerous task, requiring driver distraction. What's more, the record player's needle was very prone to skipping every time the car hit a pothole, a slight bump, or even just a sharp turn, causing constant interruptions to the music experience. High temperatures in the car cabin, especially in summer, could also warp or even melt vinyl records, ruining the driver's valuable collection. Due to these inconveniences and lack of durability, the Highway Hi-Fi feature had a short lifespan in the market. Automatic seatbelts. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, as safety regulations tightened, car manufacturers tried to encourage drivers to buckle up by experimenting with automatic seatbelt systems. The idea behind this system was to reduce user hassle, typically only a shoulder strap, controlled by a motor connected to the car door. When you close the door, the seatbelt would automatically slide along a rail backward, snugly fitting against your chest without you needing to pull it. This system was expected to increase seatbelt usage rates and improve protection levels. However, these automatic seatbelts caused many problems and ultimately failed. The biggest issue was that drivers often neglected to fasten the lap belt, leaving them prone to serious injuries and accidents as the shoulder strap alone was insufficient to restrain the body. Even worse, if you opened the car door to grab something or adjust anything, the seatbelt would unexpectedly activate and pull you towards the dashboard or steering wheel, causing discomfort and potential danger. Mechanical failures were also very common, causing belts to get stuck or malfunction, reducing the system's reliability. Ultimately, traditional seatbelts with their two parts and simple, much more reliable buckle won the race for safety and convenience. Oldsmobile Lightning Rod's Shifter. In the early 1980s, General Motors celebrated the 15th anniversary of its Oldsmobile Hearst by introducing a unique yet complex feature, the Lightning Rod's Shifter. This system had 3 separate shifter levers protruding from the dashboard, specifically designed for a 4-speed automatic overdrive transmission. The first 2 levers allowed the driver to manually shift between first, second, and third gear, providing a sporty driving feel and better control, much like a true manual transmission. The third lever was dedicated to engaging overdrive, a feature that helped save fuel when cruising on the highway. While it offered greater control, the complexity of the Lightning Rod shifter didn't appeal to the audience of automatic car buyers seeking convenience. Most people simply wanted a straightforward driving experience. Start, shift once, and drive easily without much thought. Having to manipulate 3 separate shifters became cumbersome and confusing for the vast majority of ordinary users. Additionally, the high cost of manufacturing and installing this system made lightning rods an unpopular option that quickly disappeared from the market, proving that sometimes simplicity is the key to success. Ford Wrist Twist Steering System. In 1965, Ford decided to break all traditional car steering wheel norms and hired an aerospace engineer to design a completely different steering system called wrist twist. Instead of a familiar circular steering wheel, wrist twist featured 2 small rings, only 5 inches in diameter, placed where your hands would typically rest on the wheel. It allowed the driver to control the car's direction, by twisting their left or right wrist independently, or using both simultaneously to adjust direction. The driving experience was designed to feel like piloting a futuristic spaceship, full of technology and novelty. However, the reaction from the public and experts at the time was very mixed and primarily negative. Drivers had been accustomed to traditional circular steering wheels for decades, and adapting to the wrist twist system required a great deal of patience and hand-eye coordination. This made daily driving extremely complicated and unsafe, especially in emergency situations. Most people found it strange, impractical, and completely unnecessary compared to the convenience and effectiveness of a regular steering wheel. Ford quickly realized that in car design, simplicity and ease of use remain the most crucial factors for user acceptance. Chevy swivel seat. Chevrolet has always been known for being willing to experiment with novel ideas for comfort and innovation. And the swivel seat was one of their boldest initiatives, emerging in the late 1950s. This feature allowed the car seat to swivel outward, facing directly towards the open door, making it easier for users to get in and out of the car. Even more remarkably, these seats could even rotate 360 degrees, turning completely inside the car. This was envisioned as very useful for the elderly, disabled individuals with mobility challenges, or women wearing dresses to maintain modesty and convenience. On long trips, passengers could also swivel their seats to face and converse with those in the back row, creating the feeling of being in a mobile living room. Despite its many potential benefits, the swivel seat never truly became popular. One of the biggest concerns was safety. A seat swiveling fully while the car was in motion posed a risk of loss of control and injury in case of a collision. Seatbelt positioning became complicated and difficult to properly secure the occupant. Passengers freely swiveling in a moving car also presented a major hazard, especially for children. Furthermore, the complexity of the swivel mechanism also increased manufacturing costs and maintenance issues, making the feature less economically attractive. Ultimately, the benefits it offered were not enough to offset the risks and costs incurred. Toyota Van Ice Maker. In 1984, Toyota added a literally cool feature to its cargo van: a built-in ice maker. This shoebox-sized device was neatly placed inside the van, intended to serve families and outdoor enthusiasts. The idea was to turn long road trips, picnics, or camping excursions into refreshing adventures with cold drinks always at hand. It could also be useful for first aid by quickly providing ice for injuries. However, this feature didn't become as popular as Toyota expected and was quickly removed from regular van models. Most drivers found making ice right in the car while driving to be overkill and not truly convenient. The ice maker also took up valuable interior space in the van, where families or businesses often needed maximum room for passengers or cargo. Furthermore, maintaining the ice maker, including water supply and cleaning, also created additional problems and costs. Although the idea didn't completely disappear and was later embraced and more successfully developed by RV, recreational vehicle manufacturers, it failed to become a standard feature on conventional vans. If you had the chance to bring one of these crazy ideas back to modern cars, with appropriate safety improvements, which feature would you choose and why? Honda CR-V Shower. In 1995, Honda caused a big surprise by adding a rather unique feature to its popular CR-V, a built-in shower. Honda envisioned people being able to camp, play outdoor sports, or even simply wash their pet dog after a long hike without needing to find an external water source. The Honda CR-V's shower was essentially a compact handheld sprayer, plugging into the car's 12-volt outlet, accompanied by a small plastic basin for showering. While the idea sounded convenient, this shower had one major drawback: the water was always cold. Unless your CR-V had been baking in intense heat for hours, you'd never get a warm shower. This made the showering experience uncomfortable, especially in cooler climates. As a result, most people found this feature rarely used or not truly useful in daily life. Eventually, Honda quietly removed this shower from later CR-V models. However, the idea of a portable shower persisted, and aftermarket companies continued to develop improved versions with water heating capabilities, better meeting the needs of outdoor enthusiasts. Scent dispensers. Mercedes-Benz perfume dispenser. The new car scent quickly fades and is often replaced by unpleasant odors from food, sweat, or pets. To address this issue and elevate the luxury experience, Mercedes-Benz and Infiniti experimented with automatic in-car scent dispensers. The idea was to take the air freshener concept to a new level by installing timed pumps to release pleasant and subtle fragrances inside the car. Mercedes-Benz even collaborated with professional perfumers to create exclusive scents, custom designed for their luxury car interiors, providing a sense of class and relaxation for drivers and passengers. However, this feature encountered a major unforeseen problem. Many people are allergic or sensitive to perfumes and artificial fragrances. Symptoms can range from mild headaches and difficulty breathing to severe allergic reactions. Most hospitals in the US and Canada now prohibit the use of perfumes in their buildings to protect public health, and the same applies to enclosed spaces like cars. Instead of providing comfort, this feature ultimately smelled pretty bad to a large segment of consumers and caused discomfort, preventing it from becoming popular. Subaru Brat bolt-in bed seats. When safety regulations were much looser than they are today, Subaru introduced a rather peculiar feature on their small Brat pickup truck: bolt-in bed seats. These seats, made entirely of hard plastic, were designed for passengers to comfortably sit in the back and observe the world while moving. Subaru wanted to make riding in the truck bed safer, in an era when many people still freely rode back there. To enhance safety, each seat was equipped with ski pole-like handles, and passengers were required to hold onto them tightly throughout the ride. While this idea seems risky and completely unacceptable under today's strict safety regulations, at the time, it showcased Subaru's adventurous spirit and unique creativity. Moreover, this feature had another lesser-known purpose. It helped Subaru classify the Brat as a passenger vehicle to avoid the 25% chicken tax applied to imported trucks into the US. This way, Subaru could sell the Brat at a more competitive price. Ultimately, as safety regulations became increasingly stringent and awareness of danger grew, features like bed seats gradually disappeared from the market, making way for safer and more practical designs. Nissan S Cargo Speed Limit Chime. If you've never driven in Japan, you've probably missed one of the weirdest and most annoying car features ever created. In the late 1980s, Nissan introduced the small S cargo van, named to evoke escargot due to its unique rounded shape. One of the strangest and most irritating things about this car was the speed limit chime. When you reached a predetermined speed, usually the limit on major roads, this piercing chime would ring non-stop, and there was no way to turn it off until you brought the car to a complete stop. While it sounds like a useful safety feature, in reality, it turned into a psychological torture device for drivers. Simply reducing your speed below the limit wouldn't silence the chime. You were forced to come to a complete stop for it to shut off, which was utterly absurd and inconvenient on the road. Furthermore, the S-Cargo also had other issues, such as the rear-view mirror being dislodged every time the door closed, and the radio frequently malfunctioning. All these factors combined led to this speed warning chime being described as a recipe for madness and one of the most hated features. Reliant Robin three-wheeler. When it comes to quirky cars in automotive history, few are as recognizable and controversial as the Reliant Robin, a model launched in 1973. The main reason it became unique and famous was that it only had 3 wheels, 2 at the back and just 1 at the front. In the UK, the Reliant Robin was a big success among budget-conscious drivers as it promised savings in every aspect. It was cheaper to produce and maintain, fuel-efficient thanks to its lightweight fiberglass body and small engine. Even insurance premiums were lower because it was classified more like a motorcycle than a 4-wheeled car. However, this unique wheel configuration was the primary reason for its failure in the global market and made it notoriously unstable, especially when cornering. With only 1 wheel at the front, this car was very prone to tipping over if the driver wasn't careful or took a turn too quickly. This required drivers to possess special skill and caution, making the driving experience stressful and dangerous. Despite its cost advantages, the Robin's unsafe and unstable design never truly became popular in the US and other markets, where consumers prioritize the safety and stability of four-wheeled vehicles. Thanks for watching. Want more content like this? A simple yes in the comments helps us know you're still here and loving it. Water balloon bumpers. Amidst the bizarre automotive experiments of the 1960s, a feature both unique and surprisingly practical emerged: water balloon bumpers. The idea behind these bumpers was to equip some cars with inflatable rubber bumpers filled with liquid, specifically designed to absorb low-speed impact forces. When the car experienced minor collisions, these liquid-filled bumpers would compress and sometimes burst, helping to mitigate the impact force. This offered the benefit that instead of the metal body deforming or paint chipping, the bumper would absorb most of the force, thereby helping to prevent significant body damage and save on larger repair costs. This type of bumper was once used on taxis in New York, San Francisco, and Portland. However, their fatal flaw, which led to their failure, was the not-so-cheap replacement cost every time they burst. At the time, a single repair could cost up to $1,100. For most drivers, having to pay such a large sum for something that looked no different than a giant water balloon was not an appealing idea at all. Hit-and-run identifier device. In the early days of the automobile, things on the road were quite chaotic, and accidents happened frequently. By the 1920s, hit-and-run accidents were on the rise. To solve this problem, a lawyer in the 1930s came up with an idea that sounds straight out of a comedy film: a hit-and-run identifier device. If the car struck a person or object, a mechanism on the bumper would activate, dropping a large plate displaying the license plate number, and in some versions, even the driver's name, in large, easy-to-read letters. The idea was for witnesses or victims to quickly record the details of the fleeing vehicle. Although this idea was widely discussed in automotive press at the time, it never came to fruition. With modern technology like traffic cameras and smartphones, these mechanical devices have become obsolete. Front-mounted horse's head, horseless horsey. When Ford Model Ts began appearing on the streets a century ago, their speed and sudden appearance frightened many people, especially farmers familiar with horses. To alleviate this fear, some automakers came up with an idea that sounds humorous but was very serious at the time: attaching an artificial horse's head to the front of the car. A car produced in Michigan in 1899 was even called the horsey horseless carriage. Inventor Uriah Smith believed this would help real horses be less startled when seeing a driverless machine passing by. However, this idea quickly proved to be a failure. Although the hollow horse's head could also be used to store extra fuel, that turned it into a major hazard in case of a collision, with a potential for horrific explosions. Furthermore, the core issue wasn't the car's peculiar appearance, but rather the piercing noise of the engine that truly startled horses and made them flee. Fortunately, this absurdity was quickly recognized, and this bizarre idea was discarded, making way for more practical solutions. BMW Gina, fabric-skinned, shape-shifting. Shifting from cars with strange functions to a groundbreaking design concept, we have the BMW Gina Light Visionary, a concept for a fabric-skinned, shape-shifting sports car. This project was led by BMW's head of design at the turn of the new millennium, with the goal of exploring the limits of automotive materials and design. The car was covered in a special synthetic fabric, with flexible, waterproof, translucent, and durable properties, allowing it to stretch and change shape. This was a rather strange and impressive sight, especially since this concept car looked very similar to the BMW Z4. GINA represented a completely new approach to car design, offering unprecedented flexibility. For example, folds could open to reveal headlights, or the rear of the car could adjust to improve aerodynamics. Although an incredible engineering achievement and a strong statement about the future of design, Gina remained just a concept car. Challenges regarding material durability in harsh weather conditions, maintenance and repair capabilities, as well as the cost of mass-producing such a car, remain major barriers preventing it from becoming a reality. However, it opened up new possibilities for future materials and design. Volvo heartbeat sensor. In the cutthroat business world of Sweden, it seemed the greatest threat to the safety of executives who could afford Volvo's flagship S80 sedan was kidnapping. For most of this model's production run, it could be purchased with a personal car communicator, an oversized key fob linked to an in-car heartbeat sensor. This feature would remotely alert you if someone was lurking in the backseat as you approached your car at the end of the day. Think about it. You'll realize how lucky you are not to need a car capable of detecting the subtle pulse of the human circulatory system to feel safe. This was a bizarre and somewhat excessive feature. Jaguar Land Rover. Levitating gear knob. Jaguar Land Rover truly excelled with their mesmerizing levitating gear knob feature. An innovation that felt more like it came from a sci-fi movie than a standard luxury car. When you started a Jaguar, the gear knob would gently rise from its initial position. To select a gear, you simply elegantly rotated this knob with ease to the drive, park, or reverse positions. Those who experienced this feature universally praised its smooth, precise feel, high-end craftsmanship, and satisfying haptic feedback as the knob clicked into place. However, this magical levitating gear knob also had a minor drawback. If the car's battery was weak, that impressive floating motion would instantly disappear, and the knob would lock in place, forcing you back to reality. This unique feature made you feel like you had Jedi powers when controlling it, but a power loss would pull you back to reality. Gold and Ruby McLaren SLR 999. Who doesn't love gold? So, it's no surprise someone decided to add gold accents to their car. But Swiss entrepreneur Uli Anliker went far beyond that with his McLaren SLR 999, transforming it into a shocking masterpiece. Anliker not only wanted to own an expensive car like a Mercedes McLaren, but also wanted to make it one of the most expensive cars ever produced by customizing it to the extreme. Anliker's McLaren was elaborately decorated with tons of real gold plating and thousands of sparkling red rubies encrusted on the body, creating a stunningly opulent look. Despite the materials used being pure gold and precious rubies, symbols of pure luxury, the combination of dazzling gold and vibrant red created an overall look that was too garish and hard to behold. Instead of subtle beauty, the car looked like a toy. Or perhaps you prefer the original beauty. Saab Night Panel. Saab introduced a unique and highly praised feature called Night Panel, inspired by aircraft cockpit instrumentation. When activated, this mode would dim or turn off all lights and gauges on the dashboard, leaving only the speedometer faintly illuminated. Its main purpose was to preserve night vision and enhance concentration for the driver during long night drives. Other gauges or warning lights would only illuminate when certain parameters required attention. For example, if you exceeded 85 miles per hour, the rest of the speedometer would light up. Or if the fuel level dropped below a quarter tank, the fuel gauge would reappear. This feature helped create a dark and pleasant cabin, making night driving more comfortable and less distracting. It was a prime example of Saab applying its jet aircraft manufacturing expertise to car design. Out of all the unique and sometimes downright bizarre car features we've explored, like the Jaguar Land Rover's levitating gear knob or Saab's night panel mode, which feature made you scratch your head the most, and why did it surprise you so much? The hover car. In the 21st century, many once thought we'd be driving hover cars instead of moving on the ground. Most futurists in the 1960s and 1970s predicted that hover cars would become a reality by 2000, becoming the primary mode of transportation. A few automakers seriously experimented with the hover car idea. The Curtiss Wright Air Car was one of the most notable attempts, nearly achieving this dream as it could hover for a certain period, albeit at a very low altitude. However, the hover car dream never took off due to many practical reasons and remains unrealized. One of the biggest problems was the excessive aircraft engine noise generated by the technologies of the time, causing severe noise pollution in urban environments. Additionally, hover cars also consumed too much fuel, making operating costs extremely expensive and unsustainable. In the current era, as the world is rapidly shifting towards electric vehicles to protect the environment, cars running on aircraft engines are considered too expensive and harmful to the environment, making them outdated even in concept. challenges regarding air traffic regulations, safety, and infrastructure also present enormous barriers. The amphibious car. For some reason, the idea of developing a vehicle that could function as both a car on land and transform into a boat on water became incredibly popular in the 1960s and 1970s. Engineers, designers, and the public alike seemed obsessed with the idea of owning a versatile vehicle you could drive home from work, then drive straight across a lake for fishing or a picnic. Major companies from Porsche to Land Rover all experimented and invested in this innovation, creating some notable amphibious vehicle models. Although some amphibious vehicles like the Amphicar briefly gained attention, ultimately the market for these submersible cars proved too small to justify their continued existence and development. Not many people truly wanted a vehicle that was both a car and a boat, because it typically didn't do either function well. Cars were often heavy and slow on land, while lacking stability and power in water compared to a specialized boat. The design complexity, high manufacturing costs, and special maintenance requirements made them a niche product only for extreme enthusiasts, unable to become a popular mode of transport. From bold yet potentially dangerous ideas to attempts at enhancing convenience or safety, automotive history is truly filled with stories of endless innovation. Although many of these features failed, they are a testament to the pioneering spirit and sometimes the captivating craziness of the automotive industry, a journey constantly exploring and experimenting with new things. Do you remember any of these features from the list? Or do you know of any stranger features we might have missed? Share your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss out on more exciting videos from back the yesterday. Thanks, and see you next time.